Hello. Welcome to Upper Room Ministries Sunday School here in Dover, Pennsylvania. So glad that you've joined us today. We are continuing our study in the book of Psalms. Today we shall begin in Psalm 44. So let's turn there. All right, Psalm 44. It's called Redemption Remembered in Present Dishonor. To the chief musician, a contemplation of the sons of Korah. Now, as you recall, in our last segment, we entered into Book 2 in the Book of Psalms. In Book 1, every psalm was written by David. But here in Book 2, there are some Davidic psalms, but you will also find a number of psalms written by other people. This is written by the sons of Korah. All right. We have heard with our ears, O God. Our fathers have told us the deeds you did in their days and days of old. You drove out the nations with your hand, but them you planted. You afflicted the peoples and cast them out, for they did not gain possession of the land by their own sword, nor did their own arm save them, but it was your right hand, your arm, and the light of your countenance, because you favored them. Yes. Yeah, this is this theme of putting faith in earthly things as opposed to putting faith in God comes up a number of times. The best example is found in Psalm 20. Let's go back there. Psalm 20, starting in verse 7. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and stand upright. So, faith not in earthly things and earthly weapons, but in God. And that's what their forefathers had, faith in God. And, of course, they're talking about the days of Joshua, when Joshua led the Israelites into the promised land. God said, go take the land, and they believed. Yes, they had to fight other nations to conquer it, but with God's help, they were able to win their battles. Yes. So that's a bit of a remembrance, of the goodness of God and the power of God and the favor of God. Okay, go to verse 4. You are my king, O God. Command victories for Jacob. Through you we will push down our enemies. Through your name we will trample those who rise up against us. For I will not trust in my bow, nor shall my sword save me. You get that? I won't trust in my bow or my sword. But you have saved us from our enemies. Not the bow or sword, or chariots or horses, but God. And have put to shame those who hated us. In God we boast all day long and praise your name forever. So, here, the sons of Korah are saying, what you did for our forefathers in the past, you're going to do for us today, in the present day. Seems like a real statement of faith, isn't it? But then we come to verse number 9. But you have cast us off and put us to shame, and you do not go out with our armies. You make us turn back from the enemy, and those who hate us have taken spoil for themselves. You have given us up like sheep intended for food, and have scattered us among the nations. You sell your people for next to nothing, and are not enriched by selling them. You make us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and derision to those all around us. You make us a byword among the nations, a shaking of the head among the peoples. My dishonor is continually before me, and the shame of my face has covered me. Because of the voice of him who reproaches and reviles, because of the enemy and the avenger. So no sooner does he say his statement of faith that God will continue to fight our battles and go out with us, but he says, but presently you're not going out with us, and we're being humiliated. Wow, that's quite a turn. And what is he? His next response, verse 17. All this has come upon us, but we have not forgotten you, nor have we dealt falsely with your covenant. Our heart has not turned back, nor have our steps departed from your way, but you have severely broken us in the place of jackals and covered us with the shadow of death. Oh, wow. You know, we read in the book of Joshua, when somebody, committed sin, the entire congregation, everybody suffered because of it. But here the sons of Korah saying, we're innocent. We haven't done anything wrong. Wow. I mean, I really don't know what to make of this. I mean, if God's not going out with you, surely it must mean you've done something wrong. But they're protesting, saying we're innocent. Well, sometimes troubles happen. No matter how godly a life you're living, troubles do happen. Job, best example. He was totally right with God when disaster hit. So, hey, it happens. And God never promised there would never be any troubles. Jesus had plenty of troubles. So, who are we to say, that troubles should never happen to us because we're so good? No, it's really not for us to say. Well, I don't think so anyway. Then continuing on verse 20, if we had forgotten the name of our God or stretched out our hands to a foreign god, would not God search this out? For he knows the secrets of the heart. Yet for your sake, we are all killed all day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Again, so the sons are now saying, listen, if we've gone against you, we know it. Surely you would have pointed this out to us. So again, the protest continues. But then, in conclusion, they write, awake, why do you sleep, O Lord? Arise, do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? For our soul is bowed down to the dust. Our body clings to the ground. Arise for our help and redeem us for your mercy's sake. So in the end, they make a final petition. And they cry out, our soul is bowed down to the dust, on their knees, and they're crying out. And it says, arise for our help and redeem us for your mercy's sake. Now, earlier in the psalm, they talked about how God had sold them for next to nothing and were not enriched by selling them. But now they're saying, redeem us. Redeem means buy back. You say, buy us back. So while they may not understand why all this is happening, they still have not lost faith in God. They still believe that God can pull them out of this. I mean, if they didn't, they wouldn't bother pleading. They wouldn't bother petitioning, would they? No. They would just say, forget this. But instead, they maintained faith. And when you think about it, this really is a psalm about faith. Because they're in terrible times right now, and they can't understand why it's happening. They can't think of anything that they've done wrong. And yet, they still believe that God hasn't abandoned them. No. They still believe that he hears prayers and petitions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this right now. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of us have been there, where you're saying, why is this happening to me? Well, sometimes we do wrong things and aren't aware of it, but sometimes bad things happen even when we are walking the straight and narrow. It happens. Yeah. But regardless of how you feel about it, never ever lose faith. Never fall for the lie that God has abandoned you. He hasn't. All right. Psalm 45. The glories of the Messiah and his bride. To the chief musician, set to the lilies, a contemplation of the sons of Korah, a song of love. This psalm describes a royal wedding. And yes, it can be seen as a celebration of a marriage between a man and a woman. At the same time, this is also a metaphorical psalm that's speaking of the second coming of Christ and his eventual marriage to his bride. All right, let's get started. My heart is overflowing with a good theme. I recite my composition concerning the King. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. So, right now, there's just great anticipation for what's about to happen. You, the King, the Messiah, are fairer than the sons of men. Grace is poured upon your lips. Therefore, God has blessed you forever. Gird your sword upon your thigh, O mighty one, with your glory and your majesty. And in your majesty ride prosperously because of truth, humility, and righteousness. And your right hand shall teach you awesome things. Your arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies. The peoples fall under you. Okay. I read this, and immediately I think of Revelation 19. That's when the Messiah comes for the second time. Let's go there. Revelation 19, starting in verse 11. Now I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it, him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no one knew except himself. He was clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, and that with it he should strike the nations. And he himself rule with an iron rod. And he himself treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. And he has on his robe and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, compare that to what we originally read in Psalm 45. Gird your sword upon your thigh, O mighty one. Sword. And in your majesty ride prosperously because of truth, humility, and righteousness. He comes riding on a white horse. Truth, humility, and righteousness. He prospers. And then you have your arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies. The peoples fall under you. He's going to rule the nations when he comes again. All right, let's continue. Verse 6. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of righteousness is the scepter of your kingdom. You love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your loss has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. All your garments are scented with myrrh and aloes and cassia, out of the ivory palaces by which they have made you glad. King's daughters are among your honorable women, and at your right hand stands the queen in gold from Ophir. This is quite an entourage the bridegroom brings, isn't it? You know, you go back to Revelation 19. Let's go back there. Okay, where it says in verse 14, and the armies of heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. Yes, the Messiah will also be coming with an entourage when he returns. 10. Listen, O daughter. Oh, now we come to the bride. Consider and incline your ear. Forget your own people also, and your father's house, so the king will greatly desire your beauty. Because he is your Lord, worship him. Yeah. Jesus says, to be my disciple, you have to be willing to leave behind mother, father, brother, sister. He said you have to hate them. Even your own life. To be his disciple. No? I'm getting that message in these passages right here. Continuing, verse 12. And the daughter of Tyre will come with a gift. The rich among the people will seek your favor. But clearly it's worth it to come follow Jesus and become his bride. The royal daughter is all glorious within the palace. Her clothing is woven in with gold. She shall be brought to the king in robes of many colors. The virgins, her companions who follow her, shall be brought to you, the king, the bridegroom. With gladness and rejoicing they shall be brought. They shall enter the king's palace. Instead of your fathers shall be your sons, whom you shall make princes in all the earth. I will make your name to be remembered in all generations. Therefore, the people shall praise you forever and ever. Again, well, that's back to the Messiah. Yes, that's a beautiful thing. To be married to the Messiah. So we, the bride, have got to make ourselves ready. Because we never know when our time will come. And we have to meet Jesus. Everybody is going to meet Jesus, but not everybody is going to be his bride. Okay. 46. God, the refuge of his people and conqueror of nations. To the chief musician, a psalm of the sons of Korah, a song for Alamoth. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though its waters roar and be trembled, though the mountains shake with its swelling, there is a river whose streams shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her just at the break of dawn. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. You know, you read the prophecies of the day of the Lord, and you'll find that fire is mentioned a number of times. You know, he destroyed the earth first by water, with Noah's flood. And the second time, it'll be by fire. All he needs to do is just speak it, and it's going to happen. The earth melted. Is this a prophecy of the day of the Lord? I don't know. But I definitely believe it, that if all he has to do is speak, and this earth would melt. 7. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who has made it desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow, cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot in the fire. Oh, again, going back to those who put their faith in weapons and chariots and horses. Here it says, God breaks the bow, cuts the spear in two, and burns the chariots. So who should you have your faith in? Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in all the earth. And he will be when the second coming happens. And what you'll find is that there are more prophecies in the Old Testament about the second coming than the first, which is wild when you think about it, because the first coming hadn't happened yet. But that really should make us tremble. That really should make us tremble. And reason being, in the Messiah's first coming, he came as a lamb. Second coming, he's coming as a lion. Yeah. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. So, yeah, this really is a psalm of faith, you know, in God being our protector. Yeah. God is our refuge and strength. All right, Psalm 47. Praise to God, the ruler of the earth, to the chief musician, the psalm of the sons of Korah. Oh, clap your hands, all you people, shout to God with the voice of triumph. Now, this is a praise psalm. For the Lord Most High is awesome. He is a great king over all the earth. He will subdue the peoples under us and the nations under our feet. Now, do you catch that? He's not saying he'll subdue the people under himself and the nations under his feet. No, he's saying he will subdue the peoples under us and the nations under our feet. Now, I realize that this is most likely just talking about the nation of Israel at that time, but keep this in mind. Paul writes in the New Testament, and the God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath your feet. Not his feet, but your feet, our feet. Satan is under our feet. The question is, do we believe it? Because if we don't believe it, then believe it or not, Satan has free reign in our lives. Yeah. Of course, if we're also living a life of sin, then you're under the devil's authority. Keep that in mind. If you're questioning why you're being tormented by the devil. Okay. God has gone up with a shout, the Lord with a sound of a trumpet. Sing praises to God. Sing praises. Sing praises to our God. Sing praises. Are you getting the message here? Sing praises, sing praises, sing praises. And that means sing praises even when you don't feel like it. Even when you don't want to. Look. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody in this world who will say they sing praises, they want to sing praises to God all the time. There are times when we go through tough times, and we really don't feel like singing the praises of God. Instead, we'd much rather point the finger at God, saying, why are you doing this to me? Even people who don't believe in God blame God when things are going bad for them. Oh my. But regardless of your circumstances, don't stop singing praises. Let it be a sacrifice of praise. If you don't feel like doing it. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing praises with understanding. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the people have gathered together. The people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is greatly exalted. This last verse says, the princes of the people have gathered together, the people of the God of Abraham. This is the ultimate fulfillment of the Abrahamic covenant. It is. Yes, one day all the peoples of the earth who have come to faith in God through Jesus will discover that they are one people. One people under the God of Abraham. Yeah. This has been God's will from the beginning, even before the nation of Israel was created. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. That's all the time we have. Join us for our next session when we will start Psalm 48. Until then.